All right, it's Monday night. We're in the studio and we're going to wing it a little bit. I'm going to answer a lot of 49ers questions, obviously, but we're going to talk about five positions today that heading into OTAs, because a week from now, we're going to be getting ready to watch that first OTA practice. So we're going to get to see the veterans and the rookies on the field simultaneously. These are the five positions that I'm so curious about entering OTAs because I think how the 49ers have mixed their frontline star power talent with the rookie depth, right? The B list, C list depth that they've had to replenish. I think that there are some tantalizing combinations here. Some of them might end up being really productive. Some of them might end up being less productive than the 49ers hope for. But the bottom line is that how these positions end up producing in their totality will probably end up determining a lot of how the 49ers are going to finish up in 2023. How successful this team will be is going to depend on the strength of its roster. And roster strength is not just about frontline players. It is about the mix of frontliners and B and C listers that the 49ers have tried to put together here through free agency and the draft in what has been a busy offseason. So, first position, as you can tell, bottom of the screen, tight end. What can the 49ers expect from George Kittle this season? I have George Kittle's numbers up here, and I'm going to put them up on the screen for you just so we can kind of track what George has done season to season on Pro Football Reference. Here we go. Pop this up onto the screen. Because it's interesting. When you look at Kittle's statistical prime, it was clearly in 2018 and 2019. He has a 1377 receiving yards in 2018. It was another 1,000-yard receiving season in 2019. Obviously, since then, he hasn't approached those numbers. Maybe in 2021 with 910 receiving yards, but still. 2021 for George Kittle was an injury-plagued year. He was playing through a lot, so much so that he entered the 2022 offseason not close to full health. He couldn't even lift for the first several months of the 2022 offseason. So battle tested in 2021, went through injuries that weren't even fully disclosed in that season, battled all the way to the NFC Championship game loss against the Rams, and then made it here to 2022, where he finally was able to lick his wounds, get healthy in time before the start of the year, but remember, wasn't able to put together a full weightlifting regimen through the offseason because of the injury suffered in 2021. However, we see George Kittle with a career high 11 touchdowns in 2022. Look at this. I mean, he had racked up yards in the past, but he really wasn't a touchdown machine until this past season. 2 touchdown catches in 17, 5 in that huge 2018 record-breaking season. 5 again in 2019, 2 in 2020, played half the year because he broke his foot later on. And then in 2021, 6 touchdown catches, just went berserk in 2022. Now, a lot of that was chemistry with Brock Purdy toward the end of the season. That, for the 49ers, was really good. So when we talk about what can we expect out of George Kittle, well, if Brock Purdy is the quarterback, they obviously have a rapport in the red zone. And I think that regardless of who the quarterback is, I think George Kittle has matured and evolved as a receiver to know how to pick his spots to be able to deliver in the red zone. Statistically, can we expect Kittle to reapproach 1,000 yards? I just don't think that's as feasible anymore, given the other weapons on this offense. The 49ers are so much more loaded with skill position weapons than even that 2019 Super Bowl team that you have to spread the wealth a little bit. So, I mean, 1377, that's not going to happen again. The big year in 2018 for George Kittle, with the record-breaking amount of receiving yards, that happened when the other option was Dante Pettis, right? That's not going to be replicated. But the touchdown catches, if he could maximize the efficiency of the targets that he gets, well, we can expect a lot from George Kittle. And I'm going to zoom out here to the depth chart because we're talking about tight end as our first of 5 positions. Then you can get your questions ready for the Q&A. When you look at this tight end position, It's wide open beyond George Kittle. Where are the 49ers going to find that secondary tight end production? I mean, in the past, it's been a mix of Dwelly, Werner. Last year, you had Tyler Croft, who I believe signed with the Miami Dolphins here a few days ago. The 49ers really haven't had a fixture at tight end, too. I get that Ross Dwelly's been around for several years, but he's also been on 6 separate one-year contracts. So Ross Dwelly hasn't really been the answer, so to speak, for the 49ers at that second tight end position. So is it going to be Latu? Is it going to be Cameron Latu, the third-round pick? Is it going to be Braden Willis, the seventh-round pick for the 49ers? Was one of these guys that's not named George Kittle in the 49ers tight end room, is one of these guys finally going to establish himself? I mean, just think of the amount of bodies that have come through this position, not named George Kittle, ever since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over, that really haven't stuck with the 49ers. Even Josh Peterson, the son of Jaguars coach Doug Peterson, was with this team on the practice squad offseason roster for a while. He obviously didn't stick. Levine Toilolo played a good role in 2019. Remember the Logan Paulson days of 2017? Remember Select Time? Damn it. I wish I had my watch right now. I don't have my watch on anymore. Select Time. That was a thing for the first couple of years of this regime. And Select Time actually delivered some big catches, some touchdowns. That's why they started pointing at their watch for Select Time back in 2017 and 2018. But no, I mean, he was there toward the tail end of his career. Garrett Selleck retired not that long ago, or probably already 3 years at this point. But still, that wasn't the compliment to George Kittle that the 49ers have been looking for. Is Latu going to be that guy? Is Braden Willis going to be that guy? That's what we have to find out. We saw Cameron Latu and Braden Willis for the first time on the field at rookie minicamp. Braden Willis now wearing number 9. I think that was only a mini camp thing. I'm not used to tight ends wearing single digits. I don't think there has been a tight end in 49ers history to wear a single digit jersey number. Cameron Latu wearing number 81, the former TO number, of course. But in the case of both of these players, neither of them has to be George Kittle. Okay. Nobody's running a 4.5. Nobody's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, that would be a shocking, pleasant surprise, kind of like how the emergence of George Kittle was a surprise for the 49ers. But at least he had the athletic measurables to say, okay, he could be a wide receiver 1. That's the glory of George Kittle. He runs as fast as a receiver, but he's as big as a tight end. There's a reason that he's a superstar. He's a special build. The physical specifications of George Kittle are highly unusual. But in the case of somebody like Cameron Latu, the physical specifications are not highly unusual. The 49ers think he can grow into the position since he converted just a couple years ago. They think he is a guy that has the mentality to be a great tight end for them. Braden Willis, on the other hand, well, the metrics are a little bit better from a physical perspective. He told me that he thinks he could run a 4.6. He doesn't have logged 40 on record. He did lead all college tight ends in yards after contact and broken tackle percentage this past season. So they think that he has what it takes to play a little bit like George Kittle. I'm working on a piece right now on Braden Willis. It's going to be out this week. So we'll talk a little bit more about him. But if we're going to zero in on that tight end position, that's a guy you can't forget about. Will the 49ers finally find that Kittle pairing? Tight end 2. That's something that could take this offense to another level. All right, position 2 that we're going to look at is cornerback. I mean, this is one where I like the 49ers on the front line. You can see right here, Charvarius Ward and Diamante Lenore. Isaiah Oliver, they thought that he was the best nickel in free agency this year, and he played really well for Atlanta last year. So across the top 3, I think you enter this season feeling good if you're the 49ers, because Diamante Lenore played really, really well to finish the playoffs last year. It was Charvarius Ward who spearheaded the way at corner last year that made this better than 2021. The issue for the 49ers is if one of these guys gets hurt, where do you go? Samuel Womack wasn't great last year when he had to play on the outside. They like him. He's a good special teams player. They think that he has inside-out versatility, but he's still a developmental project. Ambry Thomas, I don't even have him on the 53-man projection right now. He's over here on the right. He's obviously still a developmental project. And then you have Darrell Luter Jr. Now, Luter might be the answer for the 49ers to play inside or out, but Secondary cornerback depth is untested. It makes you wonder, is somebody like Deshaun Jameson out of Texas, is he going to be a guy that can knock on the door at least of the practice squad to be able to get called up? Trey Swilling, AJ Parker. I mean, these are all players who are not established in the National Football League, who, are competing right now, but their presence accentuates the importance of Ambry Thomas stepping up this year, of Samuel Womack continuing to develop, of Darrell Luter actually becoming something for the 49ers, because the depth is a question mark for the 49ers at that cornerback position. There's no question about it. Now, the 49ers probably have the coaching in place to really make this DB room good. We talked about the fact that under Robert Saleh and under D'Amico Ryans, this was a linebacker-focused unit. Obviously, Saleh loved the defensive front. Now you have a defensive coordinator in Steve Wilks who is DB-oriented. And he's working specifically with the cornerback. So these corners are going to get the best coaching that there can be on this whole staff. Steve Wilks has said, I want to work specifically with the corners on top of my play calling duties for the 49ers defense. Daniel Bullocks is staying the safeties coach. He's now called the DBs coach. He's gotten that promotion, but it's Wilks is going to be working with the corners. So how effectively will Wilks work with the corners? How effectively will players like AJ Parker, Trey Swilling, Ambry Thomas, a bigger name, how are they going to come along this year? Then, of course, the recent draftee, Darrell Luter Jr., how's he going to fit in? Isaiah Oliver, the veteran coming over from Atlanta. We do know that Steve Wilks really, really likes Isaiah Oliver, thought that he was the best nickel on the free agent market this year. How will they respond to this new coach? A lot of that is going to determine the strength of this cornerback position for the 49ers as they move into this 2023 season. All right, position number 3. This one, the third member of this position is going to determine just how strong it is, if it's going to be a really good position or if it's going to be a transcendent position, and that's linebacker. You have Warner, you have Greenlaw, but what do you have beyond that? Well, there's going to be several players vying for that third linebacker spot. Oren Burks, obviously, is the veteran, the special teams ace. Played well in third linebacker duties last year. But the 49ers, what they've done this offseason is they have really spent time stocking up on potential candidates for that third linebacker spot. These two are fixtures, right? They're locks. They let Azeez Al-Shaair walk. Is it going to be D. Winters? Is it going to be Jalen Graham? Is it going to be Mariano Suri-Marin? Suri-Marin, I think, is more of a project to be that Mike linebacker in the future. But if you're looking for off-ball third linebacker, D. Winters, 14 and a half tackles for loss for TCU last year, was all over the backfield, 4.4 speed. Jalen Graham can cover, probably reminiscent of Fred Warner in that he 4.6, rangy though. He's longer than D. Winters, and he's somebody who played a position that was like a glorified DB position. All these guys have potential to take at least 20 to 30% of the 49er snaps. Whether or not they turn that potential into actual on-field effectiveness, well, they're going to have to leapfrog somebody who already has a year ahead of them at the NFL level, and Marcelino McCrary-Ball. So you look at the depth chart right now. I have McCrary-Ball ahead of Graham. I have Winters ahead of both of them because they used that 6th-round draft pick on Winters. But, boy, I think everybody's going to be entering this neck and neck. And the guys I'm looking at are D. Winters, Jalen Graham, and Marcelino McCrary-Ball, who's essentially a rookie. Played last season on the practice squad but hasn't made it to the 53-man roster yet. Speedy linebacker out of Indiana, shares a lot in common with Winters and with Graham. This is something that is going to be fascinating because Al-Shaair's gone. Burks is the placeholder. Flanagan Foles is a special teams guy. You don't really think of him as much more than that. Who is going to become the new Azeez Al-Shaair, and can he give the 49ers an upgrade? Al-Shaair was an undrafted free agent, right? These guys, the 49ers have used actual draft picks on that third linebacker spot now that's going to see the field about 30% of the time. So really interesting position because we know it's going to be good, but it can be downright transcendent if one of these later draft picks pans out and starts delivering as soon as this season. All right, here we go. Let's go to position number 4 that we're going to be looking at out of our 5 positions to look at. This one, I talked about it a little earlier today when we had our big Steve Wilkes video. Defensive end. Pop this open. This is simple to me. You're awesome along the front with Bosa, Armstead, and Hargrave. You're excellent there. Is Drake Jackson going to continue that excellence at the fourth spot? They say that he's bulked up. He's stronger. He's more muscular. Does he have more endurance? Is he going to be better able to take on the run? If you have to start and you have to play Cleveland Farrell the majority of the time at that fourth defensive end spot, it's not the end of the world, but it's still Cleveland Farrell. And we already know who he is through the Raiders. Drake Jackson has a much higher ceiling. I mean, the inconsistency is something that jumped out to Steve Wilkes. He's like, okay, this guy is delivering bendy, awesome plays, and then this guy's disappearing because as a first-year player who was gassed by the end of the year, he wasn't really competing as well as the 49ers needed him to. That's what Steve Wilkes thought when he first saw Drake Jackson's tape. So say that you took the good parts of Drake Jackson's tape and you made them at least a consistent norm, let's put it that way, that he's delivering those plays more often than he's disappearing. So more strength, more endurance, second-year savvy can do that. If you do that, if Drake Jackson can take his game to the next level, all of a sudden your front four is cooking with gas. If you can't do that, well, then you're relying on somebody like Robert Beal to combine with Farrell to deliver, maybe even with Kerry Hyder, who's delivered off the edge to, you're trying to moneyball the edge rushing position. But Drake Jackson is the most valuable draft pick that's a candidate for this opposite role of Nick Bosa. And this shows you why you need to hit on those first and second round draft picks more often than you don't. Because ultimately, there's going to come a time when you can't hold on to your Charles Omenehus. You can't hold on to your Sansa Mebucoms. You can't hold on to your Jordan Willises. And when you can't do that, your draft picks are going to have to replace them. And that puts Drake Jackson firmly in the spotlight here for the 49ers. Finally, position number 5. This is the big one. This is the one that everybody seems to be worried about. It is along the offensive line, and it is the right tackle position. I wrote about this, and we might as well pop it open on the screen because this is Colton McKivitz's position right now. He's the odds-on favorite to start. Earlier in the offseason, we weren't sure exactly how the 49ers felt about him, but their actions have broadcast how they feel about Colton McKivitz. They think that he's ready for the challenge. The 49ers' belief in Colton McKivitz is one of the primary reasons why they did not draft an offensive lineman in this cycle. Now, the 49ers might still draft an offensive lineman, and they very likely will draft an offensive lineman next year. They have Colton McKivitz now under contract for 2 seasons. He was a restricted free agent. They gave him a 2-year deal. That saved money on this season and also gave them team control for 2 years. Smart move. That's what you want to do in this situation. The question now is, can Colton McKivitz become a fixture at right tackle, or is he just going to be a 1-year stopgap? The 49ers have a first-round pick again next year. They have a second-round pick again next year. The draft capital replenishes itself after this season. 11 total picks they're projected to have at this point, and they're not picking really late in the third round to begin. So if they want to go ahead and get a tackle of the future, they can do it next offseason. You might want to draft a tackle of the future even if Colton McKivitz performs well this year because Trent Williams is going to be 35 years old. But Colton McKivitz can really give the 49ers some more breathing room, some more leeway by playing like the lineman they think that he is. There's a reason they didn't pick one of these guys because they didn't think that anybody would have a chance to beat out Colton McKivitz. Not Blake Freeland, not Braden Daniels, none of those guys who could have been schematic fits. 49ers thought they would need more seasoning to knock Colton McKivitz out of his spot. So that shows you that they believe in the development that McKivitz has undergone since 2020. Didn't start out as a good lineman for the 49ers, but he got a gold helmet in the evaluation process. Tough as shit coming out of West Virginia. Has played some guard, has started there for the 49ers, and now they need him at right tackle. And he delivered for them at left tackle back in 2021. Must-win game against the Rams. He held up there. Wasn't great, but he held up there in less than ideal circumstances. Well, now they need him to succeed Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. Make no mistake, the 49ers offensive line has been good over the past 2 years. They've gotten better. They've invested in the pass protection. That the metrics indicate that that investment has paid off. But this is a big gamble that they've taken. McGlinchey was the fixture at right tackle. He was okay in pass protection, wasn't great, was bad to begin, got better, was a good run blocker. The 49ers now are hoping they can take the next step here, potentially with Colton McKivitz. And even if he can't give him that next step, they're deciding that, okay, our draft capital moving forward might be able to do that. But this team wants to win now. So they can't wait until next year's draft to address right tackle. The money right now, since they didn't have capital higher than that late third round, the money is on Colton McKivitz. How will he play? Well, that was the subject of this article. All right, 49ers Q&A time. What's up on this Monday evening? See what you guys are asking. Post your questions, says Mike. Did he make a nice thumbnail today? I got to check it out. We'll see. In my opinion, what is the 49ers' strongest position currently? What is their weakest position? I really like linebacker. And I think that the defensive line has restocked too. So the front seven, I think, is the strongest. Running back is really damn good as well. Mike just shared the oh, that's a nice thumbnail. I'm going to download that and put this sucker up on the screen for you guys. Everybody's going to like this one. This is really cool. Mike does such a good job. All right, let's grab this. George Kittle and the old 94 white throwback. There it is. That's nice, isn't it? Good job, Mike. Keep that on the screen here for a little while. Weakest position. I don't like their corner depth because it's unheralded, and I know that they paid the price for not having adequate corner depth in 2021. So I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's tough. I mean, quarterback, you think one of these guys is going to pan out and deliver close enough to an acceptable ceiling. Running back's really strong. Tight end, well, you've tried to fortify it behind George Kittle. You've got a lot of good offensive linemen, especially since they signed Feliciano and company. Receiver is stacked. I mean, this team is loaded. I think if you had a big question mark, it's at the depth of the cornerback position. I really do think that. And then you hope that QB position reaches an acceptable ceiling through either Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. I don't list them in any particular order. They just need to throw a bunch of darts against the wall and hope that somebody stays healthy and somebody truly pans out. 12-5 is my guess for the 49ers record next year. Appreciate you, Anthony. You think they're going to cut Ambry Thomas, but he's going to end up on the practice squad? Well, that would be a coup for the 49ers if they're able to do that. Smash that like button. Chris Dickerson likes Samuel Womack. You see Tom Compton return as a swing tackle. I guess instead of Matt Pryor, because right now Matt Pryor is a swing tackle. You know, Tom Compton was a good run blocker for the 49ers, but the pass protection left a lot to be desired. They're definitely hoping to upgrade over that. More questions right here. I know the 49ers don't pay huge money to B-listers and let them walk. They got Hargrave, but what do you think about the D-line depth for rotation and freshness? I mean, let's look at the D-line depth. To answer your question, I think it's pretty damn stacked right now, which is if they add that edge rusher, it's going to have to be somebody that they're sure is going to make them better. When, you know, Yannick Ngakoue is out there, so we get it. But look how strong they already are along the defensive line. This is right here. Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, Jackson, Farrell, Givens, Kinlaw, Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, Kerry Hyder. Don't forget this side. Marlon Davidson, T.Y. McGill, Austin Bryant, Spencer Wagee, Alex Barrett. It's a good-looking defensive line. Yeah, you could probably use another defensive end if he's a star, just to make sure that Drake Jackson's coming along and you're not putting all the eggs in the Drake Jackson bucket. But there's a lot of strong names in that D-line room. You know, nobody knows what was wrong with Joey Fisher. It might bet he probably tweaked the muscle or something. You never know. Like overheating is one of the I mean, that's speculation if I've ever heard speculation. It's rookie mini camp. These guys haven't been on a practice field in a while. These guys do something starts barking and they don't want to sit out there and tear their ACL. So I would prefer if we kept the speculation to a minimum. What happens at rookie mini camp is not really going to affect how the 49ers build their roster from here on out. That is the definition of an overreaction. I think the 12-5 would win the division. Yes, 12-5 would, it might be close, but Seattle would have to take significant strides to get near that. Tyler Sutherland thinks Ambry Thomas is a nice bounce back year. Did the Giants win? Nice. If Kinlaw has a good year, they could re-sign him. It's just a standard contract year for Javon Kinlaw. I wouldn't count on anything in either direction with Javon Kinlaw. Mosley was coming off an ACL tear. $6 million is quite a bit of money. And Diomeder Lenore is an ascending stock that the 49ers have under a rookie contract. So you do the math. Mosley had not placed himself as an A-lister. And the 49ers didn't want to pay him that weird amount that's in between economical and expensive. It's just that mid-range price. I don't think they're ready to pay Emmanuel Mosley that coming off an ACL tear. Detroit was. Fair enough. But the 49ers like Diomeder Lenore. $6 million for corner depth, that's going to be too steep for the 49ers. I think 15-2 is a little bit aggressive, but this is a talented team. If they figure out that quarterback position, it is possible for the 49ers. Poe would fit in at guard depth, but he's going to have to show it in the offseason, namely training camp. Jason Poe. What's wrong with Kyle Shanahan? I don't think there's much back and forth with him. He's a really good coach that puts the 49ers in position to win a title. One of these years, they're going to break through. If they keep on knocking on the door, they're going to break through. The mistake that Kyle made last year was that he didn't challenge the Devontae Smith non-catch. That could have changed the entire NFC Championship game. Kyle Shanahan needs to get better with his fourth down decision-making and with his in-game challenge decisions. Delegate that out, have somebody that's an expert on it. I think Kyle was distracted by the scoreboard at that Philadelphia game. He didn't challenge that Devontae Smith play that killed the 49ers. But geez, that's a one thing that he didn't do right. And there are thousands of things that he has done right in building the 49ers into where they are right now. So he's a really good coach, and he's still knocking at the door of that Super Bowl. And patience, I think, is really important when we track any professional sport, namely the NFL. I saw some of that clip of Jacour Person just blowing by. I couldn't tell which defensive back that was. I mean, he's been in the 49ers building. He's beaten a corner in rookie minicamp at least once. We saw the all-22 film of that. Maybe I could find it here. I think Mike sent it to me a little bit earlier. But so the 49ers obviously have seen a positive play. They don't currently have roster room to sign somebody that had to cut somebody to do it. So maybe at some point they say, hey, Jacour Pearson, come back in. We need you. We need you over here. I mean, this is, I think, a 4-3 guy, maybe the best receiver in the XFL here. We can see the film that was leaked online to Twitter. I didn't steal this. This is just publicly available stuff that I'm going to put online. Who knows how this got out there? And we can't tell who the corner is, but Jacour Pearson just absolutely demolished this last week. One move, then over the top. Avery Young is the safety, undrafted free agent. I think that was either from Colton Thorson or Steven Montez, the throw. We can watch it one more time. But obviously, impressive stuff. Go pattern. Guy can fly, be safety help. So he left at least that impression, which should be a positive one on the 49ers. Now, if they need him at that receiver room, they go out and they can maybe sign him if nobody else has signed him. But don't take too much, out of a rookie minicamp all-22 film. He's working against other rookies. He's not working against Charvarius Ward or even Diomeder Lenore in that situation, which is why training camp is going to be a much bigger indicator of which young guys make this 49ers team and which don't. I don't know if he got in trouble, but Diomeder Lenore was posting stuff the other year. I don't think the team likes it when these guys post it, but once this stuff is on Twitter, then everybody's seen it. So obviously, I think the 49ers would rather keep it in house, but it's already out there. So we'll figure out maybe down the road how that got out there. Maybe we won't. I'm not sure if Jack Kittle makes the 53. We'll see. A lot of it's going to depend on numbers and injuries and stuff throughout. I mean, how versatile can he make himself at the NFL level? I think he needs to add 10 to 15 pounds at least so he could play that lead blocker fullback role at this level. So put him in that NFL weight room. Let's see what happens. When teams start cutting to 53, it's a lot harder to carry players, though. So I think that even if the 49ers do cut him, he probably is a guy that would be a candidate for the practice squad. It's a lot easier to sign guys now when you could fit 90, which is why so many teams were interested. If you could only fit 53, the interest list will dwindle just because those spots are so much more valuable. Second year QBs get figured out quickly into their second season. If that happens when Brock Purdy returns, do you see a hot hand scenario as a possibility? Depends what Kyle Shanahan thinks of the rest of the room. And I think right now, entering OTAs, he believes in the rest of the room. He thinks that he has three capable quarterbacks to the point where, right here, the fact that Shanahan is excited about three of his QBs is incompatible with the rules of social media, which demand full allegiance to one and only one. Shanahan in the past has daydreamed about a 49ers QB room that he treats like a running back room or a wide receiver room where you have different skill sets you can plug and play. He tried to do this in 2021 with Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and then Trey Lance got hurt in week 3 of the preseason, or week 4 of the was week 3 against the Raiders, and that broken pinky injury, the hairline fracture, that scuttled those plans. But I think that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't hesitate to try the depth of his quarterback room if his quarterback at the top of it was struggling. He just has to have those QBs available. Last year didn't have QBs available. He had to go through them on an injury basis. So we'll see if that dynamic changes this season. It is a very good depth chart this season, indeed. Status on Purdy, he should be throwing in a couple weeks. It's May 15th. We're thinking early June for Brock Purdy to resume throwing. All right, it's been fun, guys. Thank you for joining. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. A little late night Q&A. I just wanted to give you all the 49ers content we need, even in a dead period. And there's going to be a whole lot more coming this week. OTAs likely next Tuesday for the 49ers beginning, at least the media access portion of it. So I'll be with you throughout all of that. Thanks for joining, though, and we'll talk to you all next time. Bye now.